gotta get dish soap in a bucket, a little sponge, so you can clean everything off, make sure the wheel looks really nice and clean. And if you don't even have sandpaper, you can use one of these little scotch things. They'll scrape off everything pretty well to the point where it makes little scratches everywhere so the paint can stick on there really nice. You just gotta do that for the whole thing. Make sure the whole thing turns basically white. Clean the whole thing off really good. Make sure that everything is gotten so every single little point of paint can get stuck on there, and it'll last you forever if you maintain it very well. So first you gotta make sure that the rim is completely clean. As you can tell, this one is extremely dirty, nasty looking. But you definitely need to clean every single little spot. Use dish soap, because when you use dish soap, it actually decreases a lot of the grease and mold and grime that gets stuck on these rims. And you don't want any of that to be on the paint, because if it gets on the paint, if some of that grime and dirt comes off and the paint's over it, you're gonna have big patchy spots and it's gonna look very disgusting and very unattractive. That's the last thing you want. You also definitely want to make sure that you get every single little soap spot dry completely, because paint will not stick to water. It will run and it will look very horrible. The last thing you want is for it to look horrible. Make sure you get every single little spot dry and clean. Make sure you sand every single little spot, just like that, so it looks very scratched up. It's just so the paint can stick better, because with the coating that it has on the original OEM wheels, it really won't. You can try it, but I mean, most of the time it won't stick, and you just don't want it to look funny. Once the whole rim is completely sanded, and you can see that there's little white scratches all over the entire rim, you grab your little trash bag and you stick it through the spokes all the way around, just so none of the paint gets on the rotor or the caliper. And you just do that with every single tire, so none of it gets harmed, none of it gets damaged. And when you brake, there won't be any sticking, because you can hear it if the paint gets into the rotor. Just make sure that the bag is completely covering the rotor, and you should be pretty good. Once the car is completely sanded down and you've secured the bag behind the rims, basically you can start putting your first coat on the rims, and it should always be a light coat, because you don't want the paint to start running or the paint to look hilariously dripping. So just from a little bit of far away, just get a light coat all around the rim. Make sure that the paint gets touched on everything, but not too heavy. Make sure it's light, just like that. And then let it dry for at least 10 minutes. All right, well, I kind of skipped the second coat, but I'm actually gonna start on the third coat for right now. And at this point, you should be getting into the little grooves. It's basically the same process throughout the whole thing. Make sure you get underside, all the sides, and make sure once the car is done, you actually turn the wheels all the way 180, because there's stuff under here that you can't really see, and you're gonna see it once the car starts rotating. It's just gonna be black, and then you're gonna see the aluminum from the past rim, and it's gonna look very funny. But yeah, it should be looking pretty glossy, pretty nice, but just keep adding coats till you feel that it should look right. You can take the center caps off and it'll look something like this once you're done. I'm not actually done with this rim, because he told me he wants the center caps black, but if you did take them off and then you put them back on, this is something about where it would look like. But he said something about he wants it all black, so that'll go along right with it. Your last coat should be a really thick one that covers every single spoke, and you make sure that everything is gotten, just like that. And make sure you're releasing the sprayer bottle every single time, because if you don't, it's just gonna be really drippy and really messy. Make sure you get the shine out of every single little spoke, inside, outside, back. Cover every single rim part all around the tire. Get every single area, like right there, I didn't touch that. Alright, so this is the finished product. Once you take the trash bags off, everything is shined up, looking pretty good. The car's a little dirty, but the rims look very clean, very shiny. Darius, what you think about it?
That shit good. I didn't go down.
Hell yeah.